The famous Italian cyclist Fausto Coppi was once asked, and winner of the Tour de France, was once asked how often had he taken La Bomba or amphetamines during his career, and he said, only when absolutely necessary. And when asked precisely how often that was, he said, almost always. Another Tour de France winner, Jacques Anquetil, in a debate with a French politician, said, what do you expect us to do, ride the Tour on mineral water? Where our team agrees with Dick Pound and the opposition is that this is really only the tip of the iceberg. The war on drugs has failed. Drugs have always been present in sport, and we're only seeing probably less than 5% of the drug takers being caught. Not only has it failed, it must fail. Growth hormone is extremely difficult to detect. Blood doping is also extremely difficult to detect, and in the future we'll have gene doping. Insulin, like growth factor, can be injected into muscles to improve muscular strength. It would have to be detected with a muscle biopsy. Scientists have created super mice capable of running 6 kilometres instead of 200 metres by altering their glucose metabolism. They've created Schwarzenegger mice with vastly stronger muscles and marathon mice capable of running much faster marathons. These could all be done in humans. We will not be able to detect these changes. Not only is the war on drugs bound to fail, it also has other adverse effects. It reduces interest. This year in the Tour de France, the race leader, Michael Rasmussen, was sacked by his team on allegations of taking drugs. There's always a cloud over winners of whether they're taking drugs or not. It's unfair. The honest athletes are penalised because they're denied access to safe performance enhancers. And of course, the rich can buy the undetectable enhancers. They can buy hypoxic air tents for $7,000 US, which are legal, whereas EPO, which is banned, costs only $120 US a month. But most of all, it's unsafe. What happens is there's pressure to develop undetectable performance enhancers with no eye to the safety. The Balko scandal illustrates what a backyard situation we have at the moment. Waters policy and the current zero-tolerance approach to drugs in sport is inconsistent and confused. External technologies like hypoxic air tents or altitude training are acceptable. They raise the red blood cell level, yet if we do this directly by retransfusing our own blood doping, or using EPO, a natural hormone, that's illegal. Yet they all have exactly the same effect. Some enhancers have been permitted in sport. Caffeine increases the time to exhaustion, or reduces the time, increases the time to exhaustion by 20%. It used to be illegal. Athletes were stripped of their medals for taking caffeine. It's now legal, and it hasn't corrupted the spirit of sport. It hasn't had the effect of creating violent mutant gladiators, as the opposition has suggested. Creatine also increases the time to exhaustion by 10%. It's also legal. Tour de France riders use intravenous nutrition to give them enough calories overnight. And of course, Tiger Woods has used LASIK eye surgery to give him better than 20/20 vision. None of these have had adverse effects on sport. One of the major arguments is that it's against the spirit and integrity of sport. Dick Pound raised this issue. When Dick Pound was asked in an interview with the New York Times which performance enhancements he thought were against the spirit of sport, he said, "It's like pornography. You know it when you see it." Well, of course, D.H. Lawrence's novels were thought to be pornographic a century ago. They're not now. Professional classical musicians regularly take beta blockers to reduce tremor and enhance their performance. The music sounds good. It's not against the spirit of music. The spirit of sport is entailed in what sport is. It's the display of human physical excellence. Indeed, just as we can increase the artistic expression through the use of beta blockers to enhance musical performance, we could use them to enhance the performance in archery, or indeed in many sports requiring control of anxiety. Ben Johnson famously said, "The human body was not meant to run at the speeds it's asked to run today. To recover from the gruelling training necessary to run those times, you need steroids to increase recovery." And of course, Tiger Woods has used LASIK eye surgery, and that hasn't been seen to compromise the spirit of golf. To say that we should reduce drugs in sport or eliminate them because they increase performance is simply like saying we should eliminate alcohol from parties because it increases sociability. So our proposal is that we allow a modest approach. We allow performance enhancers which are safe and consistent with the risks that athletes already entail. you'll notice that Dick Pound has had to wheel out examples from the 60s of deaths from steroids when they were taken orally. And indeed, the blood doping deaths all occurred in the 90s before the International Cycling Union set a maximum hematocrit of 50%. No athlete today is dying in competition from taking EPO. Indeed, I would prefer to take growth hormone prescribed by a doctor than compete in professional American football, because I know of no ventilator-dependent quadriplegic caused by taking growth hormone. The drugs need to be consistent with the spirit of an activity. Creating webbed hands and feet, which is possible, would compromise the spirit of swimming, but allowing athletes to recover from injury is consistent with the spirit of sport. We should set limits, as the International Cycling Union has done, on the hematocrit and test health, not test for drugs. It makes no difference whether an athlete's hematocrit goes from 46 to 48% by altitude training or by taking EPO or blood doping. It's a waste of time trying to detect each of these. Drugs in sport, far from being against the spirit of sport, embodies the human spirit. We are not horses or dogs flogged to display our maximum biological potential. The spirit of being human is to make choices. To be human is to be better. To make choices, and performance enhancement, as we've argued per se, is not against the spirit of sport. It embodies the history and spirit of sport. It's true that cheating is ruining sport, but there are two ways to reduce cheating. One is to ramp up the war on drugs, which is bound to fail. The other is to change the rules, to allow regulated, supervised access. We agree that you should adhere to the rules, but the rules will provide a better spectacle, protect the athlete's health, narrow the gap between the cheaters and the honest athletes if we allow access to safe performance enhancers. One of the greatest advantages of allowing the access to performance enhancement is that the limited funds that are used by WADA, $22 million, could be better devoted to detecting those drugs which are seriously against athletes' health, rather than wasting time on substances that do not harm their health and are actually already a part of the sport. Thank you.